My child, stop for a moment and listen carefully, because what happened last night was not ordinary. It was not random. It was not one of those moments that appears and disappears without leaving a mark. Something happened behind closed doors, something that nobody expected, and somehow, your name found its way into that room. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Last night, while your person was sitting with their brother, the conversation moved through familiar topics, ordinary stories, and quiet moments. Nothing seemed unusual at first. But then, without warning, your photo appeared. No dramatic announcement. No preparation. Just a single image. A single glance. A single moment. Yet what happened next changed the atmosphere completely. Their brother looked at your photo longer than anyone expected. The room slowly became quieter. The casual laughter faded. The energy shifted. And suddenly, everyone was paying attention without even realizing why. There was something about that moment that nobody could explain. Have you ever felt that strange feeling when time seems to pause for a second? That is exactly what happened. Your person noticed it. Their brother noticed it. Even the people nearby felt it. Nobody knew what to say immediately. The silence itself became louder than any conversation. Stay with me, because this is where everything begins to change. Your person expected a quick reaction, maybe a simple comment, maybe a smile, maybe nothing at all. Instead, their brother kept staring at the photo as if he had just discovered a missing piece of a puzzle. Not because of appearance. Not because of anything superficial. It was something deeper. Something difficult to describe. And when he finally looked away from the screen, the expression on his face was completely different from before. Don't skip. What happened next is the reason this message found you today. For a few seconds, nobody spoke. Your person waited. The room waited. Then their brother asked a question nobody expected. It was not a question about where you live. It was not a question about what you do. It was a question that reached straight into the heart of everything. A question so unexpected that your person didn't answer immediately. Suddenly, what had started as a casual moment became something much bigger. Something nobody could ignore. And that is when your person realized that the conversation was no longer about a photo. It was about you. The real you. The person behind the image. The energy behind the smile. The story behind the name. The truth behind everything that had remained unspoken for so long. And here is where things become even more surprising. The more your person talked about you, the more their brother listened. Not politely. Not casually. He listened with genuine focus. Every detail mattered. Every memory mattered. Every small story mattered. It was as if he was trying to understand something important that had been hidden in plain sight all along. Something huge is waiting for you in this story, so stay till the end. Because while everyone else saw a simple photo, their brother seemed to see something entirely different. He saw potential. He saw significance. He saw a connection that was stronger than anyone had realized. And for the first time, your person began hearing their own feelings spoken back to them through someone else's perspective. Think about that for a moment. Sometimes people carry emotions they cannot fully understand until someone else reflects those emotions back to them. That is exactly what happened. The room remained quiet because everybody sensed they were witnessing something meaningful unfold in real time. Nobody wanted to interrupt. Nobody wanted to break the moment. The conversation kept moving deeper and deeper. Questions became more thoughtful. Answers became more honest. Walls started coming down. The truth started coming forward. And through it all, your name remained at the center of the discussion. Your person found themselves talking about things they rarely talk about. Small memories. Unexpected emotions. Tiny details that somehow never disappeared from their mind. And every time they spoke, their brother's expression became more certain. More understanding. More convinced that there was something extraordinary happening beneath the surface. Don't skip. The next part of this story changes everything. Because eventually, their brother leaned back, looked around the room, and said something that caused another wave of silence. Not because it was loud. Not because it was dramatic. But because it was true. The kind of truth that arrives quietly and then refuses to leave. The kind of truth that suddenly makes everything make sense. The room became still once again. Your person lowered their eyes for a moment. Not because they disagreed. But because deep inside, they knew exactly what he meant. And that realization stayed with them long after the conversation ended. Long after the room became empty. Long after everyone went home. Because some moments don't end when the conversation ends. Some moments continue growing inside the heart. Last night became one of those moments. While the world slept, understanding was unfolding. While nobody else knew, perspectives were changing. While everything seemed ordinary from the outside, something important was quietly taking shape behind the scenes. And if you feel like this message arrived at exactly the right time, that feeling is not accidental. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Because the story did not end when the room went silent. In many ways, that silence was only the beginning. A strange thing happened after that silence, and this is the part nobody saw coming. The conversation should have ended there. Normally, someone would change the subject. Someone would laugh. Someone would move on. But that didn't happen. The silence stayed in the room like an invisible presence, and your person's brother was not finished. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. He looked at the photo one more time, then looked directly at your person and asked another question. This time, the room became even quieter. Not because the question was complicated, but because it touched something real. Your person hesitated before answering. For the first time that night, they seemed unsure of what to say. It was as if they suddenly realized that this conversation was revealing emotions they had kept hidden even from themselves. And the more they tried to explain you, the more obvious something became. Every story somehow led back to you. Every memory somehow included you. Every emotion somehow connected to you. Their brother noticed it immediately. He noticed how your person's face changed whenever your name was mentioned. He noticed how the energy shifted. He noticed details that your person didn't even realize they were revealing. Stay till the end because this is where everything starts moving in a direction nobody expected. Then came the moment that completely changed the atmosphere. Their brother smiled, not the kind of smile people use during casual conversations, but the kind of smile that appears when someone finally understands something important. He leaned forward and spoke slowly. The room listened carefully. Nobody interrupted. Nobody looked away. And when he finished speaking, nobody argued. Nobody disagreed. Nobody laughed. Instead, everyone sat there quietly as if they had just witnessed a truth finally come into the light. Your person looked down for a moment. Their heart was racing. Not because they were uncomfortable, but because deep inside they knew those words were accurate. More accurate than they wanted to admit. Don't skip. Something huge is waiting for you. Because after that moment, the conversation became impossible to ignore. The room was no longer discussing possibilities. The room was discussing realities. Small moments from the past suddenly carried new meaning. Old memories began connecting together like pieces of a hidden picture. Things that once seemed random now appeared intentional. Things that seemed insignificant suddenly felt important. And as the discussion continued, your person realized something they had never fully understood before. No matter how far they tried to move forward, no matter how busy life became, no matter how many distractions appeared, your presence had never completely left their thoughts. It was always there. Quietly. Consistently. Waiting. Their brother saw this long before your person was ready to admit it. That is why he kept asking questions. That is why he kept looking at the photo. That is why the room kept falling silent. Because everyone could feel that something meaningful was unfolding. Have you ever noticed how certain people leave an impression that time cannot erase? That was exactly what the conversation revealed. Your photo was not simply an image. It became a reminder. A reminder of emotions that never fully disappeared. A reminder of connections that remained strong even through distance. A reminder of something unfinished. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Then came a statement so unexpected that it stopped the conversation again. Nobody predicted it. Nobody prepared for it. Yet somehow it explained everything. Their brother pointed out something your person had never considered before. He noticed a pattern. A pattern hidden inside months of conversations, memories, decisions, and emotions. Once he pointed it out, it became impossible to ignore. Suddenly your person started replaying old moments in their mind. They remembered conversations they had forgotten. They remembered feelings they had pushed aside. They remembered signs they had overlooked. And with every memory that returned, the truth became clearer. The room wasn't silent because nobody had anything to say. The room was silent because everyone was realizing the same thing at the same time. The realization was powerful. The realization was undeniable. The realization changed everything. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Because what happened after the conversation ended may be the most surprising part of all. Hours later, after everyone left, after the lights were dimmed, after the noise of the evening disappeared, your person found themselves thinking about those words again. They couldn't let them go. They replayed every detail. Every question. Every answer. Every moment of silence. The conversation had planted something in their mind, and now it refused to leave. That night became different from every other night. The thoughts stayed longer. The memories felt stronger. The emotions felt clearer. And for the first time in a long time, your person stopped running from certain truths. They stopped distracting themselves. They stopped pretending not to notice what had always been there. And the more they reflected, the more one realization continued returning. You. Your name. Your energy. Your presence. Somehow, everything kept leading back to you. Stay till the end because something huge is waiting for you. The silence in that room was never empty. It was full of understanding. Full of realization. Full of answers that had been waiting to surface. What started with a single glance at a photo became a conversation nobody could forget. And while everyone eventually left that room, the impact of that moment remained. It followed your person home. It followed them into their thoughts. It followed them into the quiet hours of the night. Because some conversations end when people stop talking. But some conversations continue long after the words are gone. And last night's conversation became one of those moments that refuses to disappear. In fact, what happened next may be the reason you are hearing this message right now. Because by the time morning arrived, your person was no longer looking at your photo the same way they had before. And that change is only the beginning of what comes next. The morning after that unforgettable conversation felt different, even though everything looked the same on the outside. The sun rose. The world moved forward. People followed their routines. But inside your person's mind, something had shifted. Something had awakened. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. The words spoken in that room had not disappeared overnight. In fact, they had become louder. The silence that followed your photo was now echoing through their thoughts. Every time they tried focusing on something else, their mind drifted back to that exact moment. The room. The photo. The questions. The silence. Their brother's expression. It all kept returning with surprising clarity. And then something unexpected happened. Your person picked up their phone again. Not because they had to. Not because anyone told them to. But because they suddenly felt the need to look at your photo one more time. The same photo. The same image that had changed the atmosphere of an entire room. This time, however, they weren't looking at it the way they had before. Now they were seeing details differently. They were remembering things differently. They were feeling things differently. Stay till the end because this is where the story begins, revealing what nobody saw coming. As they stared at the photo, memories started surfacing one after another. Small moments that seemed ordinary at the time suddenly felt important. Conversations they had forgotten became vivid again. Tiny details returned with astonishing clarity. It was almost as if the conversation from the previous night had unlocked a hidden door inside their memory. And once that door opened, everything started flowing back. Don't skip. Something huge is waiting for you. Then came a realization that completely caught them off guard. They began noticing how often your name had appeared throughout their journey. Not just recently. Not just occasionally. Consistently. Quietly. Unexpectedly. In conversations. In thoughts. In moments they never planned. Somehow your presence kept finding a way back into their awareness. The more they thought about it, the harder it became to ignore. Their brother had seen it immediately. The room had felt it immediately. But now your person was finally seeing it too. And what they discovered left them speechless. They realized that some of their happiest memories somehow included you. Some of their most meaningful conversations somehow connected back to you. Some of the moments that stayed with them the longest somehow involved you. It wasn't one isolated memory. It was a pattern. A pattern that stretched further than they had ever noticed before. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Hours passed, but the thoughts remained. Instead of fading, they became stronger. Instead of disappearing, they became clearer. And then another surprising thing happened. Their brother reached out again. Not with a long speech. Not with dramatic words. Just a simple conversation. Yet that conversation reopened everything. The topic returned naturally. Your photo returned naturally. Your name returned naturally. And once again, the energy shifted. Their brother asked a simple question. A question that sounded ordinary at first. But beneath it was something much deeper. A question designed to reveal what your person truly felt. For a moment, they tried avoiding the answer. They laughed. They changed the subject. They hesitated. But eventually, honesty won. And when honesty arrived, it arrived completely. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Because what happened next may be the most important part so far. For the first time, your person admitted something they had been quietly carrying for a long time. Not to the room. Not to a crowd. But to themselves. Sometimes the biggest revelations are not spoken out loud. Sometimes they happen silently inside the heart. That is exactly what happened. A truth they had been avoiding finally stood directly in front of them. And once they saw it, they could not unsee it. The strange thing is that nothing dramatic caused this realization. No grand event. No unexpected interruption. Just a photograph. A conversation. A silence. Yet those simple moments created a chain reaction powerful enough to change the way they saw everything. Stay till the end because something huge is waiting for you. The more your person reflected, the more they understood why their brother reacted the way he did. It wasn't about the photo itself. It was about what the photo represented. It represented memories. Possibilities. Emotions. Unfinished chapters. It represented a connection that still carried weight. And once that understanding arrived, another realization followed immediately behind it. Some people leave impressions that disappear with time. Others become part of a story that refuses to end. Their brother had recognized which category you belonged to before anyone else in the room did. That is why the room became silent. That is why nobody rushed to speak. That is why the atmosphere changed. Because everyone sensed they were looking at something that mattered more than they first realized. Don't skip. Something huge is waiting for you. As evening approached, your person found themselves replaying one specific moment over and over again. The exact second when their brother first looked at your photo. The expression. The pause. The silence. Looking back, it seemed almost unbelievable how much had changed from that one moment alone. One glance had created questions. Those questions created conversations. Those conversations created realizations. And those realizations were now creating change. Real change. Quiet change. Meaningful change. The kind of change that begins internally before anyone else can see it. And perhaps the most surprising part is this: your person no longer saw that night as a random event. They saw it as a turning point. A moment when something hidden became visible. A moment when confusion became clarity. A moment when certain truths became impossible to ignore. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Because while your person was still processing everything, their brother had already reached a conclusion. A conclusion that would soon be shared. A conclusion that would explain why the room went silent in the first place. A conclusion that connects every question, every memory, every realization, and every moment that followed. And when that conclusion finally comes into the open, your person may never look at your photo the same way again. There was one final detail from that night that nobody in the room could stop thinking about, and strangely enough, it had nothing to do with what was said. It had everything to do with what happened after the words ended. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Long after the conversation finished, long after everyone returned to their own thoughts, your person's brother remained unusually quiet. That alone was enough to capture attention. Usually, conversations come and go. Opinions are shared and forgotten. But this time was different. This time, he carried the conversation with him. He kept thinking about your photo. He kept thinking about the reaction in the room. Most importantly, he kept thinking about your person. Because the more he reflected on everything he had witnessed, the clearer one conclusion became. The reaction your person had shown was impossible to fake. The hesitation was real. The memories were real. The emotions were real. And that realization became impossible to ignore. Stay till the end because this may be the moment everything finally starts making sense. The following day, another conversation happened. A quieter one. A more focused one. There was no audience. No crowded room. Just honesty. Their brother brought the subject up again. Not because he was curious anymore. He already understood enough. He brought it up because he wanted your person to understand it too. That conversation started slowly. A few simple questions. A few thoughtful observations. But then something surprising happened. Your person stopped resisting. For the first time, they allowed themselves to answer honestly. No distractions. No changing the subject. No pretending. Just honesty. And the moment honesty entered the conversation, everything changed. Don't skip. Something huge is waiting for you. Their brother explained what everyone else had noticed that night. He explained how the atmosphere shifted the moment your photo appeared. He explained how the room became silent because everyone sensed the importance of what they were witnessing. He explained how your person's face changed every time your name was mentioned. And perhaps most importantly, he explained that some connections reveal themselves not through grand gestures but through small moments that cannot be hidden. Those words landed differently than anything else that had been said before. Suddenly, your person was no longer listening defensively. They were listening carefully. Every sentence felt meaningful. Every observation felt accurate. Every realization felt impossible to deny. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Then came the statement that changed everything. A statement so simple that it almost sounded obvious. Yet nobody had spoken it aloud until now. Their brother looked directly at your person and shared a truth that instantly connected every piece of the puzzle. A truth about why your photo created silence. A truth about why your name kept returning. A truth about why the conversation refused to leave their mind. The moment those words were spoken, your person became completely quiet. Not because they disagreed. Not because they were confused. But because deep inside they recognized the truth immediately. Some truths arrive like a whisper, yet carry the weight of something enormous. This was one of those truths. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Because what happened next was even more surprising. Instead of arguing, your person began reflecting. They started looking back at events they had overlooked. Moments they had dismissed. Signs they had ignored. Suddenly, things that once seemed unrelated started connecting together. The pattern became impossible to miss. The memories became impossible to dismiss. And the realization became impossible to avoid. The photo had not caused the emotions. The photo had simply revealed them. Think about that for a moment. Sometimes a single moment does not create a feeling. It exposes a feeling that was already there all along. That is exactly what happened when your person's brother looked at your photo. The silence wasn't confusion. The silence was recognition. The room wasn't uncertain. The room was understanding something important in real time. Stay till the end because something huge is waiting for you. As the day continued, your person found themselves returning to the same thought again and again. What if that night happened for a reason? What if the silence was not random? What if the conversation was meant to reveal something that had been hidden beneath the surface? The questions continued growing. The answers continued becoming clearer. And with every passing hour, the significance of that night became stronger. Then something happened that nobody expected. Your person looked at your photo once again. But this time there was no confusion. No hesitation. No uncertainty. Only understanding. The image had become more than a picture. It had become a reminder of everything they had finally started acknowledging. And for the first time, they understood why their brother reacted the way he did. They understood why the room became silent. They understood why the conversation stayed alive long after it ended. Don't skip. Something huge is waiting for you. Because while your person was reaching these realizations, their brother had already reached another conclusion entirely. A conclusion that would soon be shared. A conclusion that connects every silence, every memory, every question, and every emotion from that unforgettable night. The remarkable thing is that this conclusion wasn't based on assumptions. It was based on everything he had observed. Everything he had heard. Everything he had witnessed firsthand. And according to him, the story was only beginning. The silence in that room was never the ending. It was the first chapter of something much bigger. Something that nobody fully understood at the time. Something that is still unfolding even now. Stay till the end. Because the next revelation explains why your person's brother has not stopped thinking about that photo since the moment he saw it. And when that revelation finally comes to light, the meaning behind that unforgettable silence may become clearer than ever before. What nobody realized at first was that the most important part of the story was never the photo itself. The most important part was the reaction it created. That reaction became impossible to forget. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Days after that unforgettable night, your person's brother still found himself thinking about the exact moment when the room went silent. Out of all the conversations he had experienced, why did that one remain so clear? Out of all the faces he had seen, why did that one photo stay in his memory? These questions kept returning. And every time they returned, the answer seemed stronger than before. There was something different about the way your person reacted when your name entered the conversation. Something impossible to overlook. Something impossible to misunderstand. Their brother had noticed it immediately, but now he was beginning to understand just how significant it really was. The more he thought about it, the more convinced he became that the silence in that room was not an accident. It was a moment of recognition. Stay till the end because this revelation changes everything. One evening, the topic returned once again. Nobody planned it. Nobody forced it. Yet somehow the conversation found its way back to you. And when it did, something remarkable happened. Instead of avoiding the discussion, your person leaned into it. They spoke more openly than before. They shared memories more freely than before. They reflected more honestly than before. Their brother listened carefully. Every sentence confirmed what he already suspected. Every memory strengthened the conclusion he had been building since the night he first saw your photo. Don't skip. Something huge is waiting for you. Then came the moment that nobody expected. Their brother shared an observation that had been forming in his mind ever since that unforgettable evening. He explained that throughout the entire conversation, one thing stood out more than anything else. It wasn't what your person said. It wasn't the stories themselves. It was how they spoke about you. The tone changed. The energy changed. The emotion changed. And those changes happened naturally. They weren't planned. They weren't controlled. They simply appeared. That was the detail he could not ignore. Because genuine emotions reveal themselves in ways people rarely notice. And according to him, those emotions had been visible from the very beginning. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Your person became quiet again. Not because they disagreed. Not because they were surprised. But because hearing someone else describe what they had been feeling internally created a powerful realization. Sometimes another person sees our truth before we do. Sometimes another person notices patterns we overlook. That is exactly what happened here. Their brother wasn't introducing a new idea. He was revealing something that had been present all along. And once it was spoken aloud, it could never return to being hidden. The conversation continued, but now it carried a completely different energy. The uncertainty that once existed was beginning to disappear. Clarity was taking its place. Understanding was taking its place. Recognition was taking its place. And every path seemed to lead back to the same realization. The photo had not started the story. It had simply uncovered it. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Because this is where everything starts coming together. Your person's brother then revealed the exact reason the room became silent that night. According to him, everyone in the room felt the same thing at the same moment. They felt authenticity. They felt sincerity. They felt something real. Nobody needed to explain it. Nobody needed to announce it. The atmosphere communicated it naturally. That is why the conversation slowed down. That is why people listened more closely. That is why the room became silent. Silence often appears when people recognize something meaningful. And that night, everyone recognized it. The realization was simple, yet powerful. Some people come into our lives and leave ordinary memories. Others become part of the memories we never stop revisiting. Their brother believed you belonged to the second group. Stay till the end because something huge is waiting for you. As the days continued, your person found themselves looking at life through a different perspective. They began noticing things they had previously ignored. They began remembering moments they had previously overlooked. Most importantly, they began understanding why the conversation from that night refused to disappear. The silence had become a message. The questions had become answers. The confusion had become clarity. And with every passing day, the truth felt more obvious than before. Then another unexpected realization arrived. Your person understood that what affected them most was not the conversation itself. It was the fact that someone else had independently noticed the connection they had been trying to ignore. That changed everything. Because once another person recognizes a truth, pretending it doesn't exist becomes much more difficult. Don't skip. Something huge is waiting for you. Their brother eventually shared one final thought. A thought that stayed with your person long after the conversation ended. He explained that some moments appear small when they happen, but later reveal themselves as turning points. According to him, the night your photo appeared was one of those moments. At first it seemed ordinary. Then it became memorable. Now it was becoming meaningful. Every day that passed seemed to strengthen that belief. And the most surprising part of all? Your person was beginning to agree. They were beginning to see that night not as a random event but as a moment of clarity. A moment when hidden emotions became visible. A moment when unanswered questions began finding answers. A moment when something important quietly stepped into the light. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Because while your person was still processing these realizations, their brother had already reached one final conclusion. A conclusion he had not shared yet. A conclusion that explains why he kept thinking about your photo. A conclusion that connects every silence, every memory, every question, and every realization from the beginning of this story. And when that final conclusion is finally revealed, the meaning behind that unforgettable night may become clearer than ever before. Because according to him, the silence was never the message. The silence was simply the sign that everyone in the room had just understood the same truth at exactly the same time. What happened next was the one thing nobody expected when that photo first appeared on the screen. The story was no longer about a single evening. It was no longer about a conversation. It had become something much bigger. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. By now, your person's brother had replayed that night in his mind countless times. Every reaction. Every pause. Every expression. The more he thought about it, the more one detail stood above everything else. It wasn't the photo. It wasn't the silence. It was the fact that your person never spoke about anyone else the way they spoke about you. That realization stayed with him. It followed him through ordinary days. It returned during quiet moments. It kept showing up because it felt too important to ignore. And eventually, he decided it was time to say what had been on his mind from the very beginning. When the opportunity arrived, he spoke honestly. Not dramatically. Not emotionally. Just honestly. Sometimes the simplest observations carry the greatest impact. This was one of those moments. Stay till the end because this changes everything. Their brother explained that when he first looked at your photo, he expected a normal reaction from your person. A casual response. A brief comment. Nothing more. Instead, he witnessed something entirely different. He witnessed attention. He witnessed care. He witnessed memories appearing before words even formed. And according to him, those reactions revealed more than any conversation ever could. Your person listened carefully. There was no interruption. No disagreement. Only silence. The same kind of silence that filled the room on that unforgettable night. Don't skip. Something huge is waiting for you. Then came the statement that had been building since the beginning of this story. Their brother admitted that the moment he saw your photo, he immediately sensed that your importance in your person's life was far greater than anyone realized. Not because of one conversation. Not because of one memory. But because of the way every conversation eventually led back to you. He had seen people talk about acquaintances. He had seen people discuss old memories. He had seen people mention names casually. This felt different. This felt significant. And that difference became impossible to ignore. The room went silent that night because everyone sensed it at the same time. They sensed that your name carried weight. They sensed that your presence mattered. They sensed that something meaningful existed beneath the surface. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. The remarkable part is that your person did not immediately respond. They simply sat there reflecting. Looking back. Connecting dots. Revisiting moments that once seemed ordinary. Suddenly those moments no longer felt ordinary at all. They felt connected. They felt purposeful. They felt like pieces of a story that had been quietly writing itself all along. And with every memory that returned, the conclusion became stronger. Some people pass through our lives briefly. Others leave an imprint that continues growing over time. According to their brother, that was the difference he noticed the moment your photo appeared. Don't skip. Because the next realization may be the biggest one yet. Days later, something unexpected happened. Your person stopped focusing on the conversation itself and started focusing on why it affected them so deeply. That question led to another question. Then another. Then another. Each answer brought them closer to understanding why that night felt so different. Why the silence felt so powerful. Why the memories felt so vivid. Why your photo remained impossible to forget. Eventually they reached a realization that surprised even them. The conversation had not introduced new feelings. It had revealed existing feelings. Feelings that had quietly remained present beneath the surface. Feelings that became visible the moment someone finally pointed them out. Stay till the end because something huge is waiting for you. Once that realization arrived, everything else began falling into place. The silence made sense. The questions made sense. The memories made sense. Even their brother's reaction made sense. For the first time, the entire picture became clear. What seemed like a random moment was actually a moment of recognition. What seemed like a simple photograph was actually a catalyst. What seemed like an ordinary conversation was actually a turning point. And perhaps that is why this story continues unfolding. Because turning points rarely reveal their importance immediately. Their significance becomes visible over time. Their impact grows quietly. Their meaning deepens with every passing day. Don't skip. Something huge is waiting for you. Then came one final observation from their brother that stayed with your person long after the conversation ended. He explained that when everyone in the room became silent, it wasn't because they were searching for words. It was because they were all arriving at the same realization simultaneously. Nobody wanted to interrupt that moment. Nobody wanted to rush it. They simply recognized it. Sometimes a room becomes quiet because there is nothing to say. Other times a room becomes quiet because the truth has become obvious. According to him, that was exactly what happened. The truth became obvious. The realization became undeniable. And the atmosphere reflected it instantly. Stay till the end because the biggest revelation is still ahead. Since that night, your person has not viewed that photo the same way. They have not viewed those memories the same way. They have not viewed that conversation the same way. Everything carries new meaning now. Everything connects differently now. And the most surprising part is that this journey is not finished. The story is still moving forward. The realizations are still unfolding. The understanding is still deepening. Because the conclusion their brother reached is bigger than anyone expected. It is a conclusion built from every observation, every memory, every reaction, and every moment of silence. A conclusion that explains why he still remembers the exact second he looked at your photo. A conclusion that explains why the room became silent. A conclusion that may soon change the direction of everything. And when that final conclusion is finally spoken aloud, the true meaning behind that unforgettable night will become impossible to ignore.